He's only male out here. Right in the middle is Ursula. She's 17 years old. She's our adult female northern fur seal. And then last but not least is Ursula's daughter, Kitovi. Kitovi is the same age as Chi. She's going to be 3 next month, and she was born right here at the aquarium. Now with Cheetah and Kitovi being young animals, they are still really in the basics of their training process, so it gives us a really great opportunity to tell you guys a little bit about how we teach our animals. Now the first thing that we do, and the most important part of our job, is building a strong relationship and a trusting bond with our animals. That's what allows us to communicate with them, for them to understand what we're saying and to be able to feel comfortable with us. And it allows us to be really successful trainers. Just knowing things like now Kitovi here, she's very comfortable with sitting in front of me and allowing me to do what we call tactiles, or essentially just giving her a little back scratch here. Good job. And all these ways are really important for our relationship. Now the first thing that all of our animals learn is something called targeting, which is simply where they touch their nose to an object that we're presenting them. It could be our hand, good. It could be that target pole that my co-trainer Patty and across the way Vanessa are both using this session. And once they learn this targeting behavior, we can use that by moving the target around to shape a lot of their different basic behaviors. So something that Patty's working on, not so basic, is actually teaching Zoe how to do a backflip. And she's utilizing that target pole, simply guiding her around in a circle. Yeah, that was pretty awesome. And eventually she's gonna get to a point where she doesn't need to use that target pole. Same thing with Kitovi here, something like teaching her to spin in a circle. Yeah, you know what you're doing, I know. Eventually we can make that target pole smaller and smaller until eventually it's just a small signal like that. Good job. Now, like I said, this comes in really handy in teaching a lot of their basic behaviors, showing you guys how tall and strong they are, even show them how flexible you are. Are you watching your mom over there? Good, kid, show them how flexible, good job. And even things like having them lay down on the deck, which might not seem like the most impressive behavior, but it really is very important for us and for our veterinarians to get a good look at their body, do a nice physical exam. Are you grooming your nose? Good job. And eventually this behavior, having Kitovi stay nice and still, will allow us to train her to sit still for things like ultrasounds and x-rays. Good. And even a voluntary blood sample. A big part of our training job here is teaching these guys to participate in their own health care. So having Kitovi at such a young age be very comfortable sitting still for an extended period of time is going to eventually be very helpful in her health care. Good job, kid. Now another way that we can train behaviors is simply taking advantage of things that these guys do on a regular basis. How they move around in and out of the water is a really great example of that. Something like having Kitovi show you how she can jump out of the water is a simple behavior called porpoising. Good, that these guys do on a regular basis. It's helpful for them to not only catch a quick breath while swimming, but more importantly to avoid predators. Things like sharks or killer whales that might be a threat to them out in the ocean. They can very easily switch direction while they're mid-air. Good. Now another natural behavior that these guys do that we're able to catch on a signal is something called grooming. Now this is a unique behavior that you'll only see our fur seals do. Show them a little more. Good job, Kit. And this is actually going to lead me into the next part of my talk, which is telling you about our 2 different species. Now that you've learned a little bit about how we train them and how we take care of them, I'll tell you a little more specifics about the 2 different groups. Now Ursula is also showing you another example of that grooming behavior where she's utilizing the nails on her hind flipper. Cheetah as well as doing some grooming down in the chalice. And like I said, this is something very unique. This is something you really won't see most other seals and sea lions doing. And that's because fur seals, as you can guess by their name, have a very thick fur coat. If you actually see with Kitovi here, target? Good girl. Can I show them your fur? If you see as I start to mess up her fur on her back, good job. You can actually start to see a much lighter tan or peach color. That's because these guys actually have 2 layers rather of fur, and that's how they actually stay warm. That's one reason why Ursula here, she's a full-grown female, as I mentioned, she's 17 years old. She's not that big. That usually surprises people to hear that she is that age at such a small weight. And that's because fur seals don't rely on a layer of blubber like our sea lions, like our Atlantic harbor seals out at the front of the aquarium. That blubber layer isn't necessary because of how thick their fur coat is. It's actually the second thickest fur of any animal in the whole world, second only to the sea otter. And that's where that grooming behavior really comes into play. It's very important for them to maintain those 2 layers of fur because, as I said, they're their primary means of staying warm. Fur seals are typically found up in the Bering Sea, which is up near Alaska and Russia and Japan. So very cold climates. Our water temperature here is about 57 degrees. So even on these nice warm days that we've been having recently, that cold water still requires them to stay warm with that layer of fur. Now again, our sea lions, as I mentioned, they do rely on that layer of blubber, so that is one of the big differences between these guys. But besides that, they do have a lot of similarities. These guys are both in a group known as eared seals. One easy way to tell that they're in that group is simply by looking at the side of their head. They have these external ear flaps right here, just like you and I do. That's something that our Atlantic harbor seals at the front of the aquarium don't have. They're part of a group known as earless or true seals. So they just have small holes on the side of their head instead of these really visible ear flaps. The other main similarity is how these guys all move around. By using these strong front flippers, they can pull themselves through the water, as you saw Katobi do earlier. They can also rotate those flippers up and underneath their body so that they can walk around on all fours. So it makes them extremely agile both in and out of the water. Now we're going to be wrapping up our training session here. And as we finish up, I do want to thank you guys all for coming out. I hope that you enjoyed meeting our two species of animals and learning a little bit more about them and how we take care of them. If you guys do have any questions, again, my name is Erin. I'll be making my way, all done, out to the seating area in just a minute or two, so feel free to stick around. I'd love to chat with you guys. If not, if I don't get a chance to see you, thanks so much for coming out and have a great rest of the day at the aquarium. Bye, everyone.